Saul Thomas Benjamin, a veteran's story. Here is his story. War is not a happy event. It affects families with life changes, some that can never be forgotten. For the Benjamin family, World War II was a horrific event. It took the lives of 2 out of 3 sons. The surviving son was Saul Thomas Benjamin, my grandfather. Here is his story as a veteran, which is part of our American history. Early life. Saul Thomas Benjamin was born November 23, 1915 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. His parents were Abraham and Ida Benjamin. Saul was the oldest of 4 children. His sister Ruth, born October 3, 1917. His brother Joseph, born December 15, 1919. And his younger brother Harold, born August 11, 1923. My grandfather graduated from the University of Minnesota and studied law. Enlistment. Saul Thomas Benjamin enlisted into the U.S. Navy on September 5, 1940. His active duty officially started on February 14, 1941. The reason why most men during this time period joined the military was to defend their country. Saul joined the U.S. Navy thinking it was the safest branch of the military to join. Training. Saul's training started at the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. He was a college graduate from the University of Minnesota, which allowed him to be an officer. His title was Lieutenant Commander. At Annapolis, as an officer, he was in Company C. He studied Armed Guard School, Torpedo School, Gunnery Torpedo, and Radar School. He also trained at the Sub Chaser Training Center and Demolition School in Miami, Florida. Ships. Saul was commissioned first on the destroyer USS Manly. The second ship he was commissioned on was the destroyer USS Buchanan. World War II background. To give you a brief background of World War II, in July of 1941, Japan invaded southern French Indochina for land and supplies. Japan was attempting to take over the Asian countries. So while Japan and Germany were fighting, the United States decided to cut off all sales to Japan. This meant no oil and metal ores were going to be shipped to Japan. On December 7, 1941, the worst American naval fleet defeat occurred at the Battle of Pearl Harbor. 21 ships were destroyed or damaged in the attack on Pearl Harbor by the country of Japan. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States declared war on Japan. We were now part of World War II. The war against Japan ended on August 6, 1945, by President Harry S. Truman ordering the atomic bomb to be dropped on the Empire of Japan. World War II officially ended on September 2, 1945, when the United States signed a treaty with Japan saying that the war was over. War for Saul. My grandfather was only 26 years old during one of the worst battles of the United States Navy. We recall 2 stories from my grandfather. The first comes from the First Battle of Savo Island, the second from the Battle of Cape Esperance. First Battle of Savo Island. The Battle of Savo Island took place on August 8 through 9, 1942, and was the first major naval engagement of the Guadalcanal campaign. It was the first of several naval battles in the straits later named Iron Bottom Sound, near the island of Guadalcanal. The battle was the first of 5 costly, large-scale sea and air-sea actions affecting the ground battles of Guadalcanal itself, as the Japanese sought to counter the American offensive in the Pacific. During the First Battle of Savo Island, the USS Astoria was getting hammered by artillery shells. The ship called for assistance. My grandfather's ship, the USS Buchanan, was en route to aid the USS Astoria, but when the USS Buchanan got there, it was too late. The USS Astoria was sinking on her side. The USS Buchanan lowered 2 motor whaleboats and, although interrupted by a fruitless hunt for a submarine, came back and assisted the men in the water. With the help of the USS Alchiba, the men from the USS Astoria were rescued. Grandpa was on deck and he shouted orders to the crewmen. "Why the hell is that boat still swinging the davits? Lower the damn thing in the water." My mother tells me, yes, that does sound like my dad talking. My grandfather was a real hero who helped save several men in the water. However, he never saw himself as a hero. Battle of Cape Esperance. The Battle of Cape Esperance, also known as the Second Battle of Saul Island, took place on the 11th and 12th October 1942 and was a naval battle of the Pacific Campaign of World War II between the Imperial Japanese Navy and the United States Navy. The battle was the second of 4 major surface engagements during the Guadalcanal Campaign and took place at the entrance to the strait between Savo Island and Guadalcanal in the Solomon Islands. Shortly before midnight on 11th October, a U.S. force of 4 cruisers and 5 destroyers under the command of Rear Admiral Norman Scott interrupted Gatto's force as it approached Savo Island near Guadalcanal. Taking the Japanese by surprise, we attacked on Gatto's force. On the 12th of October, 1942, the USS Buchanan, with the help from the USS Duncan, torpedoed down the IJN Furutaka. The torpedo flooded the Japanese cruiser's engine room. About 90 shells hit Furutaka and caused their torpedoes to ignite and start a fire. The ship sank stern first. Americans took 115 crew members as prisoners of war. My mother's memories of her father's experience the evenings of October 11th and 12th, 1942, are unforgettable as were my grandfather's memories. She recalls her father always told the story that he stood his battle station as the torpedo officer on the USS Buchanan. A true battle was underway where guns could be heard. Saul was wondering why the Buchanan was not receiving orders from the captain to fire the torpedoes. Grandpa gave the orders himself to fire the torpedoes as the captain was sleeping. He knew he would probably get a court-martial for giving the orders, but he thought we needed to even the score with the Japanese for what they have done to Pearl Harbor. Grandpa remembered as the torpedoes hit the water running, the captain's voice over the ship's intercom ordering him to fire the torpedoes. Saul answered the captain, "The torpedoes are already in the water." My mother remembers the smile on her father's face every time he would tell someone this part of the story. Grandpa laughed to think that the ship's captain was in bed when he gave the order to fire the torpedoes. Aftermath. Grandpa on several occasions would complain of back pain, most likely from being in the Navy in battle. He told my mother that the USS Buchanan after the Cape Esperance battle was hit by friendly anti-aircraft fire. The Buchanan was protecting supply ships unloading at Guadalcanal when low-flying Japanese bombers were sighted. The Buchanan was hit bad enough that several crewmen were killed and injured. Topside damage disabled the torpedo tubes and put the Buchanan out of order for battle. We think Grandpa may have hurt his back even though he was considered not injured during this friendly anti-aircraft fire. Escorting transports, she hauled out the injured Buchanan toward Espiritu Santo in the New Hebrides. The crew. The USS Buchanan and her crew received Presidential Unit citations. The citation was for outstanding performance in the combat against Japanese enemies ashore and afloat in the Pacific War area from August 7, 1942 to February 26, 1944. Grandpa Saul was entitled to wear a ribbon bar with blue naval star for this citation. Honorable Discharge. After the war, Grandpa Saul continued to serve his country in the Naval Reserves. He received his honorable discharge from the Navy April 21, 1959. Brothers. Grandpa Saul's 2 brothers were less fortunate during World War II. Saul lost both brothers in battle. Joseph Sherman Benjamin, U.S. Air Force, First Lieutenant, was killed February 16, 1945, while flying over Germany during the bombing of Dresden. His remains were never found. Brother Harold Meyer Benjamin, U.S. Army, Private First Class, died from injuries received May 21, 1945, in the South Pacific during the Battle of Okinawa. You can imagine the pain that the Benjamin family went through losing 2 boys within a 3-month period. My mother was always told that her Aunt Ruth never stopped mourning the loss of her 2 brothers. Later in life, Saul Thomas Benjamin went on to marry Sarah Rose Hochstad on May 9, 1948. My grandmother Sarah was part of the Women's Army Auxiliary during World War II. Grandparents' passings. Grandpa Saul was the first to pass away. He died on April 23, 2004. He was 88 years old. Grandma Sarah soon followed Grandpa Saul 40 days later on June 2nd the same year. She was 82 at the time. Grandpa Saul was honored at his funeral with a military 21-gun salute. May he forever rest in peace.